Hello and welcome to the Clock End Talk, an Arsenal podcast. You can get us at clockend_talk. I am your host, Tez. I'm back again, and this week I have Tony. How are you, buddy?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Quick day trip to Norwich today. Got back a couple of hours ago, so a bit tired, but I'll crack on for the sake of the podcast because I'm such a hero.
Actually, I apologise. You might get a bit of feedback from me because it's 9 a.m. in the morning here, and it's a lovely 27 degrees, and I'm sitting outside, so it might be a little bit of background noise, but fuck it, we'll get through it. And you wouldn't fucking believe who we wrestled up today, Tony.
I thought someone won a competition to appear on the podcast.
And that bloke is Schwinn. How are you, buddy?
Very good, very good. It's been a while, and I apologize for my absence. But now that fucking idiot has left our club, I thought it's time to dust up the old headphones and jump on the pod and just glee in the happiness that is the absence of Unai Emery.
Now, before we get into obviously the Norwich game, we will talk about the sacking of Emery. I do apologise. We were going to, and Tony can clarify this with me, we were going to do a podcast. We were looking at last Friday something. Now, the reason I apologise, I wasn't involved in negotiations and time zones. That was all Schwinn. So Schwinn actually put up in the WhatsApp group, let's do a podcast. And let's just say Schwinn couldn't organise a fucking route in a brothel. So.
Yeah, like Schwinn says, let's do a podcast, and then gives you two time options that are like, let's do 4:57 a.m. or 11:34 p.m. and I can't do any other time. And if you're a minute late, I'm not doing it. That's pretty much how these negotiations go. That's pretty much what happened. But I will hold my hands up and say I didn't really see the value in doing one anyway. So his obscure times gave me an excuse to be like, oh no, can't do that
one. So you didn't. I want to argue, but no. I can't because you guys are absolutely right. I mean, that's just how strapped for time I am right now.
Okay, so for those who did ask, have we got a podcast out about the sacking? No, we don't. We will cover it in this one. So, Tony, let's get on with it, mate. News during the week. Well, let's go back to the Frankfurt game. The writing was on the wall well before then. We spoke about it last show. The results were never going to go in Emery's favour, and 24 hours after that game, he was out.
Not even, I think about 12 hours after the final whistle. It was painful. I mean, the players, again, just didn't look interested or look confused, didn't know what they were doing, whatever excuse or reason you want to label on it. By all accounts, or I'm led to believe that they'd agreed to sack him on Monday, not to him, but they'd agreed that he would no longer be the manager, but they wanted to keep him in there while they were finding a replacement, just to try and keep things sort of steady. And then that result, that level of performance, that emptiness from the crowd, just made them realise that it can't really get any worse. What's the worst case in getting rid of him and letting Freddie have it? So I think, although he was a dead man walking, so to speak, that game was someone pulling the trigger.
Yeah, Schwinn. I haven't spoke to you for a while regarding Arsenal and stuff, but your opening statement was you think he was out and gone. What legacy does he leave at Arsenal? Does he look at this 18 months and think, look, I wish I could tear that one out of my resume and move forward? And what do you think of? What would remind you of that 18 months of Emery, I suppose? Is there anything you can take positive out of it?
I want to because, I mean, to fill Arsene Wenger's shoes is not an easy task. The man came into a job which obviously was going to put a lot of expectation on him, despite there being some realism that there is a lot to do here. But, I mean, I don't want to bring in numbers into the equation, but I sort of have to, because when you look at the underlying numbers, it's pretty horrific. The amount of shots we've conceded, the amount of goals we've conceded. And on the flip side, not really scored a whole lot despite some of the best attacking talent in the league. When you look at Aubameyang, Lacazette, and to an extent Mesut Ozil. So, you have to sort of balance it out by levying the realism versus the expectation. But in hindsight, you have to say that it just wasn't the right fit. He was a lot more pragmatic than our squad could have afforded to be. And despite some of the new signings, despite spending quite a lot of money, it just didn't quite work for him. I mean, I think Lucas Torreira's career sort of encapsulates Unai Emery's time at the Arsenal. Started off bright, some really good spots there, and then sort of just faded away. And to me, even Torreira's exclusion from the squad, particularly this season, has been quite shocking. I mean, the man hasn't completed 90 minutes so far in the Premier League, and that's someone that we thought could really be a critical part of the team. For me, it was underwhelming at the beginning, and I think in the last 18 months, that's only been highlighted even more.
Tony, I was talking to a guy, mate of mine the other day. Believe it or not, I'm allowed to have one beer, so I sat there and had a beer, and we spoke a bit about Arsenal. But he doesn't follow football, and his question was, how come they sacked Emery? And I got thinking to myself, and I thought, well, there's obviously a number of factors that I could go into that you probably wouldn't understand, tactics and things like that. But to sum it up, I just don't think he was the right fit for Arsenal, as Schwinn just said. And I started thinking, like, he's a manager from Spain. We've got Ceballos in the team, and Hector is the other one. And I started thinking, well, I think it might have come down to a bit of a communication breakdown. Like, he wasn't the most strongest English speaker. Some of the press conferences we couldn't understand. When he's on the sidelines, I thought, well, how many of them players can actually understand what instructions he's shouting out? And then at half time in the dressing room, and he's hot under the collar, and he's trying to get out as much information as he can in the couple of minutes they've got to send out his troops again with instructions. I just think the communication breakdown was one of the major points.
I mean, that's been an excuse that's been bandied around. And look, obviously, I don't know. We can all have your 2 cents worth, my 2 cents worth. For me, I think, look, his accent was very strong, and he said some things that were not difficult to understand. Like when he said evening, you knew what he meant. It just sounded funny. I think his English was good enough. I don't think that's an excuse. But I know I'm in the minority with that. I don't know if it was just a bad fit, his style of management. It's a difficult one because if he would have only had the Sevilla job, you would have known it was a bad fit. The sort of underdog, the plucky underdog, they defend for their lives, they catch teams on the break, they you know what I mean? It's a surprise for them, or they've done really well to come 4th or 5th in Spain. I think what's thrown everyone is that because he was at PSG and he was winning, he won the treble, obviously, including in that treble is a league title. Got to, I'm not sure if it was the quarterfinal of the Champions League twice, beat Barcelona and Real Madrid at home in the Champions League, and then got embarrassed away both times. And you kind of thought, like, okay, there's something different. And I think it just might not have been a right fit from the start.
The We Care, You Care campaign that type of launched, they're probably patting themselves on the back that they were again an influence on Arsenal's making a decision. Your thoughts?
No, I mean, everyone knew. As I said, by all accounts, it was done on Monday, and I think that came on the Wednesday, and he was sacked on the Friday. Look, I had a lot to say about the We Care You campaign last time, and thinking it was nonsense, and I kind of still stand by that. But at least this time, it's been a bit more. This is what we want. Whereas last time, it seemed like we're making noise for the sake of it, and then if anything good happens, we're going to claim credit. My biggest complaint about it last time was, what do you want? Because it moaned about A, B, and C. Okay, we all have these moans and frustrations, but what is your aim? What do you want to achieve? And last time that really wasn't clear. I mean, everyone presumed it was just spend more money, and I don't think it was. But when we did spend money, that campaign kind of stopped for a bit, so it didn't look too good. This time, as I said, I think that I don't know if they learned from feedback from last time, that it seemed a lot more specific. We need better structure. We want this. We want that. And look, I'm not one that thinks fans should have too much of a say. And because you do end up with just people throwing their toys out the pram every time that they don't get what they want. And that's where, well, definitely Arsenal, but I think where modern football's going, which for me is a shame. I don't really like it. But if they're going to do it, at least make it clear, which they have done. As I said, last time it was just a bit of a rant, and they made it look official by putting a few Twitter accounts' names on it.
Okay, well, we can mark the end of Unai Emery, and thank you for your time at the Arsenal, and Schwinn, caretaker. Freddie comes in, mate. Your thoughts on that? It was, and forget about today's game for a minute, but just put yourself on. Okay, Freddie's stepping up. Would you want another caretaker in place?
I think it's the right thing to do in the short term. He's been with Emery for a bit now, and if Arsenal decided to make a different appointment as the caretaker, it sort of rubs Freddie the long way. Someone who's obviously been with us, been at the club for a long time. Now with the academy, of course, he'd spent some time before being promoted to the first team. And I think it's fair to say that we are looking for someone, not just at the end of the season, but someone to come and do the job to take care for the rest of the season and beyond. So to bring in another caretaker manager probably wouldn't have been the right decision while we hunt for someone more permanent. I think the search is well underway. And of course, there's a lot of names being banded around so far. But I'm excited to see what Freddie can do in the short term. I think I'm not going to go beyond and say that he is the one, but I think he'll be all right for the short term. And it might push us to make a decision on a permanent move much faster as well.
If Freddie Schwinn got you top 4 this season, is it fair to say he should take over next season?
No, not for me. I mean, we usually use those benchmarks, but for me, that's just not good enough. And not in terms of top 4, but we have to understand that there's, obviously a big change in mood that comes in after a new manager comes in, and more importantly, once the old nemesis is gone from the training ground. And that might push the players to do better. Again, ignoring what happened today, that might push the players to do better. But at the end of the season, if we get top 4, thank you, Freddie. If you're more than welcome to still have you around in whatever capacity you'd like. But in terms of a long-term manager for the success we need and we sort of crave at this point, we need someone a bit more experienced and someone who's been around for a longer time.
Same question to you, Tony, but I want to... same question to you, but I'm going to say he wins Europa League and top 4.
I mean, my worry, I don't want him anywhere near that long. And this is one of the things that's worrying me, that they're going to kind of cop out of making a decision and just leave him there, whether it be the case of, we think top 4's gone, so we might as well give him the experience. Or, look, if he gets there, and whether he wins Europa League or not, if he gets there, you've got to keep him, because as a club, we pretty much only have one aim, is to get in the Champions League. And if he does that, you can't really say, well, we're getting rid of you for someone else to only try and get us in the Champions League. It was a bit, I know it's completely different, but it was a bit like when Di Matteo won the Champions League with Chelsea. They didn't want him there, but he's just won the Champions League. Can't get rid of him. But for me, I don't want Freddie anywhere near the job for that long, and I think he will be, and it's something that does worry me. I mean, if it was up to me, I would be searching as hard as I can and get him out of there ASAP. And that's nothing against him, but he just doesn't have the level of experience, or I mean, we don't know about ability, but you'd imagine if he'd had the level of ability, there'd be teams knocking the doors down in years gone by, and there never has been. So, look, I hope he can rejuvenate the team, get a bit of fun factor in the squad, go back to basics. And I think that's something we really need to do. And I hope he can do all that. But to be honest, if he's here any more than 3 games, I'll be disappointed.
Well, yeah, okay. No, interesting, very interesting. Well, let's get on to this Norwich game, because I'll be honest, it type of shocked me, the team lineup, Tony, that did come out. But then listening to what you just said and understanding that Freddie does want to get these players back on side and obviously playing for the badge again. Mustafi was in the team. Willock was back. Is this... Klasinac, he was back. Is this due to, you think, that, hey, let's give these guys a bit of confidence?
I don't know. Look, I didn't think it was the best lineup, and there was a few weird ones. I wasn't at all surprised with Willock. Obviously, he knows him very well from last season, and Willock was probably his star man last year, when you think that Smith Rowe and Nelson were both out on loan. You could argue Saka, but he was only 17 last year, so he probably didn't feature as much as Willock did. So I wasn't too surprised about Willock. Kolasinac can kind of be explained by Tierney playing 90 midweek. I guess that semi makes sense. Mustafi one was baffling. You know what? Without obviously, I know what happened today, but he was probably our best defender on Thursday. He's probably been our best defender every time he's played. So from that angle, you can kind of think, well, does he deserve a chance? I thought the formation was wrong. I thought the certain things were wrong. For me, as much as I'm an Ozil fan, you play him at 10 or not at all. I think I've always said that, and playing him on the left just baffles me. He's not going to run and beat a defender, and it leaves you really narrow and pretty much without pace. I thought it was a really weird selection. I didn't really know. I looked at it and thought, what are you trying to do? How again? I always map out how are we trying to play. To be fair to Emery, as much as I didn't like him in the first say 4 months or 5 months, we used to laugh and joke about it, saying we're cut back FC. But you could see what we were trying to do: get it to the fullbacks to overlap and cut it back. Okay, it was a bit too much emphasis on it. We were trying to do it all the time, but at least you kind of knew what the idea was. I looked at that team today and thought, like, this is before the game, and I thought, how do we score? Like, what's our, especially with Ozil on the left. And you thought, well, we're not really going to play through the middle. Are we going to hope they play high up and then get Aubameyang to run in behind? But then he was wide. I just looked at it and I thought, what's the plan? And I've now watched the game and I'm still not sure.
Is Pepe actually, like, he's in, he hasn't been the bee's knees since he's come to Arsenal. You could blame Emery for that. You could blame Pepe for that due to, obviously, no form at the moment. Do you reckon Freddie looked at him and said, well, yeah, I'm going to bring you back in slowly? That's why you're on the bench today. That was a weird one for me. You spoke about Ozil.
I don't know if he's carrying an injury, and I'm not making an excuse for him, but on Thursday he did not warm up at all. Like I know he was named on the bench, but I didn't actually physically see him. So if someone said to me, "Oh, actually he wasn't there, they just named him on the bench for banter," I couldn't argue. Today, obviously, he did warm up. He didn't come out at half time though, so usually the subs come out and just mess up. I mean, yeah, it's not a hard warm up; they just come and kick a ball around. But he didn't come out at half time. He was the only one that didn't. When he was warming up on the touchline, I think he just walked up and down. So I don't know if it was a selection thing or if he's carrying an injury. What I don't understand is if he is carrying an injury, why he was on the bench for both games. It is a weird one, and I've been saying this for the last few weeks. Against Palace a few weeks ago, and maybe the game after that, or I can't remember, our game plan was literally give Pepe the ball and hope. And he done okay. Like nothing spectacularly wrong, nothing spectacularly brilliant. And then the next game he got dropped, and I don't think he's played since. Oh, he played against Vittoria, where he didn't play great, but he got an assist. And it's sort of like, how can someone go from being your go-to guy to not featuring at all, not even being one of your free subs that come on? It all seems a bit weird, and look, maybe they don't fancy him. Maybe Freddie just thinks, I don't know you yet. I've not really worked with you enough to put you in my team, where he knows people like Lacazette, Aubameyang, Ozil, obviously Saka better. I don't know what it is. It does seem a bit of a strange situation. Look, maybe they just don't think he's good enough.
Mm-hmm. Schwinn, your thoughts on all that and the team lineup when you seen that come pop out, mate?
A bit strange, of course. I mean, we have to say that everything we say from here on out is with the knowledge that, Lundberg has had just one training session ever since taking over. So obviously we're going to be critical at times, as Tony just was, but that's obviously with the lens that the man hasn't really had, like 24 hours even to work with the team. But having said that, there were obvious issues.
Would you play Aubameyang right and Ozil left? Because you've had no sessions, and I'm pretty sure you wouldn't do that.
And see, that's exactly what I was coming to. That there are mistakes he made, and what's baffling, as you said, Tony, is that he played Mez on the left, and that's even weirder because you're having to shoehorn Aubameyang on the right when easily you could have switched them. Not even throughout the game, but let them be a bit more fluid and let them sort of move around as the game progresses. But there was none of that. And it was surprising. So was Mustafi's inclusion for my money. Not quite sure what that was banded about, for what reason that was on there. But as you said, more importantly, the system was still wrong. We struggled a lot to get out. The amount of time Norwich were able to press us successfully was a bit strange. And again, I say this again and again, that it's been 24 hours since he's taken over. But you'd expect him to change a few things, which he just didn't seem to, quite bring himself to do. So quite a few question marks, some bright spots here and then, particularly in terms of us pressing them when the ball was in their final third, but not good enough still.
Yeah, the only thing I can think with the Mustafi is that, hey, he's been excluded from the teams under Emery, except the Europa League, and maybe this is. I feel sorry for you, and you're back in my squad. You know, it's the only thing I can put it down to. But anyway, let's get into the match, Tony. Wasn't far, 21st minute, and Norwich get a goal, go up 1-0.
Yeah, I mean, look, the first 20 minutes, I thought we were very good. We looked confident. We moved the ball well. We created a couple of chances. Look, I'll say this now. I've not seen the game back, so I've only seen what I saw when I was there. It was the other end of the ground, but for me, it looked like Lacazette missed an absolute sitter from a deflection, I think, from a Willock shot. I may be wrong. It may have been a really hard chance, but it looked very easy, and that should have put us 1-0 up. But our defence throughout the game was absolutely horrific. The first chance they got, really, Pukki's got two defenders. It's not even a good ball to him. First off, Mustafi should cut out the ball. Then Pukki gets the ball and Mustafi goes the wrong way. I don't know why he's done that. He then starts pointing out wide. So Luiz seems like he thinks he's got a problem out wide when the guy was so far away and just not a danger. He should have been ignored. For me, they both should have pressed on him. And look, if Pukki goes through two of you and scores, hold your hands up. Well done. Too good. But they just let him decide what he was want to do. One backed off, like Mustafi backed off and didn't engage him. Luiz went wide when there was no danger there. And then look, the shot gets a big deflection, but it's just horrific defending. And I always moan about the system. And there is system issues there. It's one straight ball and we're in trouble and the guy wide was free and whatnot. But that is also just terrible individual defending and decisions. I can't. There's a lot of defensive wise I can I don't know if I can blame Freddie for it, but if it was Emery, I'd be blaming him. And you can look to the system, but on that, you just think that is just rank.
Well, we've got to look at the players now. We've got to look at them really. Like they were fucking hopeless under Emery, and now they're hopeless defending under Freddie. And
yeah, look, as Shrin said, they've had one session, and most of them wouldn't have even trained properly because they played Thursday. But there was just things that are wrong. But for that goal, I mean, Chambers is horrendously out of position as he was for pretty much the whole game. Literally, I don't know what he was doing out there. And then the two centre backs, it's just piss poor. And look, I'm not one of these people that blames Mustafi for everything, and there are people that are, but I literally have no idea what he was doing. I don't know why he didn't cut the ball out. I don't know why he told Luiz to go wide. I don't know why he switched and he went left and told Luiz to go right. And then I don't know why he backed off. It was just baffling. And again, I can't blame Freddie for that. That is just an individual or two or three individuals' mistakes.
29th minute, Schwinn, we go up with the Aubameyang 1-1.
And a strange way for that to happen as well. I mean, when does the pendulum really swing our way? How often does that happen? You know, it's not very often, is it? I mean, we usually get the bitter edge of the sword, but lucky, very, very lucky. Tim Krul, as we know, is very good on the spot when it comes to saving penalties. And we saw a little bit of theatrics from his side. And I wasn't really concerned. I thought Aubameyang is, usually pretty calm. He's a composed finisher, but obviously that wasn't the case on the first go. But then in steps VAR because of encroachment, and we get a second crack at it. And I loved how pissed off Tim Krul was after that. He tried to make a point. I was secretly hoping that he's going to get another card, but I think the referee knew that it's just the heat of the moment and he let him pass. But lucky that we got that encroachment. Lucky it was spotted and something that VAR decided to pull up and give us another opportunity on. Won't happen very often.
Yeah, it doesn't happen much. It was a handball, by the way.
Was it a penalty? I've not seen it.
No, it was a handball.
Yeah, I'm saying.
Yeah, for me it was.
Sorry.
For me it was. I mean, you could argue that
would VAR have overturned it if it wasn't given?
Not for me. I think it would have been given. I think it was very, very clear. And to your point, Tony, your earlier point, even Lacazette's chance, for me, it should have been. I think he just scuffed it. I think that's what happened. He had a bit of pressure on him, and the defender did well to sort of get a body, on him, but he should have buried that.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I'm 80 yards or more, 100 yards away, but it looked very, very easy, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm glad you cleared that up, Schwinn, because I was thinking exactly the same. Um, yeah.
With the penalty, I think because Tim Krul saved two against Man United a couple of weeks ago, and when they really highlighted how much he came off his line, and I think usually because that's in their minds now, it wouldn't have even been looked at. I mean, and he was like a hair's breadth off his line. Most people in the ground thought that's what it was retaken for. That's the only bit of the game I've seen back, and there was encroachment, but I'd feel really hard done by if it was the other way around, to be honest.
It is one of those things, but as the law states, if you get pulled up on it, then you can't really be sour for it.
Well,
it's something that doesn't get.
Yes and no. I kind of agree and disagree. You're right, as the law states, but when a law is never ever upheld, and then the one time it is upheld, you can't go, oh, well, I broke the law. It kind of does feel like you can be sour about it.
Oh yeah, I felt
you just
sorry
took the
for
words
Tim.
right out of my mouth, because that's exactly what I was going to say. Sorry, Taz, but
Yeah, no,
it's the
right.
consistency, isn't it? That it's sometimes it's selectively applied, and to make matters worse, sometimes it's not even pulled up, despite it being something that the commentators are talking about. Look, we don't know what the referees are having a conversation about, and most times when it comes to VAR, for all we know, they could have pulled this penalty up because the referee thought Tim Krul was a bit away from his line, and we're sitting here talking about encroachment. But you're absolutely right. The laws, not just with encroachment, but sort of across the board, get applied selectively, and that's what's really, really confusing to spectators in the stadium and out of it.
Just before half time, Tony, Norwich go up again, mate, 2-1.
Yeah, I mean, just again, brain dead. I mean, we've been brain dead for way before Emery and probably since the Invincibles. It's like, I know there was quite a bit of added time, but just keep sensible. Don't do anything stupid. We give the ball away. Callum Chambers' positioning. I like Callum Chambers, so I don't mean to hammer him, but it was one of the worst individual displays I've ever seen. Going forward, he couldn't keep the ball. Defensively, he was out of position at all times. Like that close to half time, I don't know where he's going. I don't know what he was doing. Obviously, they've played the ball in. Cantwell, it's a good finish, but again, I don't know. I think it was Mustafi. Why he's let him run onto it. Like, close him down. I don't know if he's so scared of fouling him that he lets him do what he wants. As I said, it's a very good finish, but just more brain dead. Like, there's nothing more Arsenal than that.
No, it's fucking frustrating, to be honest. And this is why, look, and I know Darren's not here to defend himself at the moment, but this is why I wouldn't have minded Mourinho coming in for 12 months or 2 years. But, you know, that ship's well and truly sailed. But just the fucking decisions these defenders make, it's just, like, they're on fucking good money. They're professional sportsmen. They're professional football players. What the fuck's going on? It doesn't add up to me. Makes no sense. 57th minute, Schwinn, Bemian gets another one. We go up 2-2.
Lucky, I'd say. I think some of the Norwich players got distracted by the other ball being thrown into play from the crowd.
But they did show that. I've not seen anyone moan about it, so I wasn't sure if they showed it on TV.
Yeah. I mean, you could see it directly from where the broadcasting camera was. And you could tell that certain players, sort of turned their shoulders just to look at it. I mean, they knew where the actual ball in play was, but you can't help but get distracted by it. And that's exactly what happened. Emphatic finish, I have to say. Aubameyang with unstoppable. There's no other word for it. But I mean, I'm trying to think as I'm talking about this goal. Is there really anything else to talk about from this half other than that one goal?
Fucking nothing, mate. Absolutely nothing.
I think there's quite a bit, but not in terms of incidents. Just to, so am I right in thinking that under the letter of the law, that goal should be disallowed? It had been the most unjust
I'll be honest,
ever.
Tony, before they actually went back, the commentators went back on the TV in, well, where I was, and looked at it about 5 minutes later. At the time of the goal, the commentators didn't mention it. And I noticed the ball coming on the field, and I thought, hello, this is going to be disallowed here. And it just type of went through, and nobody really mentioned it over here. And then all of a sudden, 5 minutes later, they looked back at it. So I was wondering, and Schwinn, I'm not sure what obviously your coverage was like and the commentators, but did they pick it up later and then think, oh, maybe, like, was it too late?
I'm not sure. I'm not. I mean, we haven't really heard about that much. in my opinion, I don't know the letter of the law, I should say. I don't know what the rules state explicitly. But I would agree with Tony. That's something that you would pull up and you'd ask the corner to be taken again. But I'm not quite sure what happened. I'm not sure how you enforce something like that. Usually it's the ball boys who will try and fetch the ball back.
Did you see someone? Do you know the whole situation? What happened?
I think when the ball went into, I think when the ball went out for a corner, someone just held it, didn't they?
No, they were throwing it about the stand for literally about a minute. So they got another ball back, and then of course, as soon as the corner comes in, they throw it back on the pitch. And I don't know. For me, as far as I know, again, I don't 100% know the rules, but from what I think, that should be disallowed. Obviously, I'm not moaning about it, but I think the ref just thought, you're to their fans, you're such pricks. There's no justice in disallowing that goal because you've been bare lens. It's not like it's come on accidentally. You know exactly what you're doing. And I was saying, because me and my mate that I was with were saying, yeah, we think that should be disallowed, probably by the letter of the law. And I said, yeah, but then everyone would just start taking footballs or tennis balls. Like, if you can't sneak a football in, sneak a tennis ball in or a mini football. And as soon as the other team has an attack, they're breaking through in the last minute. The ball gets launched on the pitch. It'd be interesting to know the actual rule. I'm surprised. I looked back on Twitter after the game and I read back all the way through when I got home. And there's not a single mention of it. That's why I just assumed they hadn't shown it on TV.
No, it was
there.
I mean,
they showed it pretty clearly on my end.
Yeah, it was there. But like I said, it was a couple of minutes later until they looked back at it on a replay. And when they would look back at it, they said, it was no interference of play. It was obviously over to the right hand side, and it was well out of everyone's way and whatnot. So I was wondering, either they've picked it up too late and not realised, and I don't know whether time's gone on, or B, it was just no interference. I don't know.
I think you make an interesting point there, Tony. I mean, this is sort of where the subjective nature of the game comes in. I mean, I think it's fair to speculate that if it was the Arsenal fans who held onto the ball and they threw it in, the goal would have been disallowed. But because it was the Norwich fans sort of kicking their own team in the nuts, so to speak, the ref was like, well, too bad. You guys are distracting our own players. And maybe it is for that reason that we didn't see the Norwich players really argue with the ref, because they sort of knew that, well, what are we going to really say about this?
Yeah, just obviously there's no real room for subjectiveness in the rules. I don't know the rule.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to find out if by the letter of the law that goal should have been disallowed.
Okay, boys.
Yeah, if someone knows, get in touch. Let us know.
Yeah, @ClockN_talk. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Tony,
can I just say, after that goal, we were utterly shite for the rest of the game. Like, the worst we've been in weeks.
I'm not even going. I wasn't even going to go through that, or I wasn't even going to talk about the substitutes.
Is there anything else to discuss? I mean, in terms of actually, Leno made an outrageous save from when Guendouzi made a mistake and they broke through 1-on-1. I mean, he made a few good saves, but one when they broke through 1-on-1, he made with his left hand was absolutely unreal.
Yeah, absolute class, that one. I mean, we have to say Granit and Guendouzi both made errors leading into that chance, but I was convinced that was going in. I was absolutely convinced. Luiz and Mustafi were...
I had the perfect angle and was just like, that's a goal. It's interesting because I read the tweet that said basically Xhaka and Guendouzi both made big mistakes for that. And from what I remember or what I saw, or everyone in the ground was just like, what the fuck is Guendouzi doing? No one blamed Xhaka, which is obviously anyone who's been or watches us on TV knows that Xhaka gets blamed for breathing at times. So I don't overly know what people are on about, but no one there picked up on it. I don't know if his mistake was Guendouzi's was worse, or just because Guendouzi's was closer to the shot going in that people blamed him. But yeah, I did read a tweet saying similar.
Okay, so Tony, give us your 3, mate.
Leno.
Schwinn.
Alba.
Yeah, I'm going to say Aubameyang as well. Fucking some cunt's going to mow his fucking lawn now, you miserable cunt. Man's trying to fucking record a podcast over here, you cunt. 2 points, Tony.
Aubameyang, I thought he was utter trash, to be honest, but you get 2 goals, you get rewarded.
Schwinn.
Leno.
Yeah, I'm going to say Leno as well. Fucking hell. Tony, you won.
Xhaka. I thought Xhaka was comfortably our best outfield player, to be honest. I thought by an absolute distance, but obviously, as I said, Aubameyang's got 2 goals. You can't really leave him out, and obviously Leno's not outfield. And as I said, Xhaka got a really good reception. Not reception in terms of clapping his name, but everyone after the game was like, "Oh, Xhaka played really well." Blah blah blah. There was no real criticism of him, which I don't know if people are going so far the other way to try and prove that they're not. They weren't dickheads before. They were. I don't know if people are now being too nice, but it was one nice to see, but two very surprising.
Go on, Schwinn, give us your one.
Granted, for everything that Tony just said.
Should I say Mustafi because we feel sorry for him?
No,
shit. No,
no,
don't.
I'm going to go Granite as well.
Pookie had him on toast throughout the game.
He did. But I just still baffled on why he was even in the team. I'm going to say Granite as well. I read a few. Fuck off, cunt. Fair dinkum. Anyway, I read a few. It might have been in the WhatsApp group or Twitter. A couple of people were complaining about the Guendouzi Granite lineup, which we know Torreira and Granite probably go better together. And a few people were whinging about Granite sitting back so deep. He's probably not that player. So, but anyway,
I thought he won quite a lot of tackles.
I thought he was good. I thought he was all right. Yeah. And it was, he come back after the shit fight that went on with him the last couple of weeks. So, yeah. Anyway, let's move on to some questions, Tony. But I'm just going to take a quick break, mate, because I'm going to move. Okay, you can get your questions to us at @clockend_talk on Twitter. We usually throw that thread up usually after the game or a couple of hours after, depending on when we record. So, Schwinn, you're going to get the job today reading some questions out, buddy.
Yeah, I'll start off. Hakon, of course, a regular listener. He says, "What's going on with Pepe? Just can't understand why he's so out of favor. We spent a lot of money on one of the most exciting talents in Europe, and he's rotting on the bench." That's something we've sort of covered already. Unless, Tez, you want to add something? Because we got Tony's opinion on that.
I can't work it out at all. I really can't. The only thing I can put it down to is form. And he didn't really feature with Emery, but then he did come out, and it seemed like, well, that was as Tony said, that's the tactics we're using, get the ball to Pepe and do whatever you can. I have to question whether it was an Emery signing, because it just seemed like they didn't know how to use him. And I think maybe that is still the case. Freddie, obviously, is in as caretaker. Does Freddie know much about him? Does Freddie know how to use him? That's the only thing I put it down to. Look, form, I'm not going to be too harsh on him on form because, let's face it, it is his first time in England. So we type of give Torreira a bit of credit, and we've give these players a bit of leniency when they've come over to England. So I need to see at least another season of him. But I need to see a manager who knows how to use a Pepe as well.
Yeah, I think it's best just to sort of wait and see what happens. Tony, of course, is someone who's at the stadium, and he saw the dynamics when it came to warming up. So it could be that he's just carrying a little bit of a knock. So let's wait on that. But Hakon continues, and he says the lack of athleticism in this team is amazing. How could we allow the squad to turn out this way? Tony?
Yeah, I think I said that to my mate I think it was late on in the first half, where obviously because Aubameyang's playing wide, he's dropping short. And then you've got Lacazette playing up against a centre-back, but they were defending higher and higher because Lacazette is absolutely no threat in behind. That's fair enough. We know that. He's an into-feet guy. But you have to keep Aubameyang close if you're going to do that, to stop them. Because then it makes Lacazette's job impossible because they push up so high that the midfield, there's a very small gap between the centre-backs and the midfield. So his first touch has to be perfect. Otherwise, he's just going to bounce back to their centre midfield. I think we only really had one player on the pitch that could run. Look, Guendouzi runs around, but he's not quick. Willock caused problems early on, running from deep because he's quick. Aubameyang was too far away, but I don't think you need loads of blistering pace in a team. I just think you have to utilise it correctly. As I said, if you put Aubameyang next to Lacazette, then their defence automatically has to drop 20 yards. Otherwise, you're just going to get in time and time again. And then it makes Lacazette's job a lot easier, which then brings other people into play. And it makes the gap between the lines bigger, which in theory then gives Ozil an easier game. More space for Guendouzi, more space for Willock, which then leads to more. You can give the ball out wide easier because the players have got more time to give it and the players can get in the box. It all, again, it's just system. It just seemed weird. I wouldn't say, look, if we probably done all of our players in a 100-meter relay against all of their players, I'd probably say we would win. But just the system and having them so far away from each other, the combinations were just not good. And look, again, you can't blame Freddie for something as complex as combinations when he's had one training session. But that needs to be sorted. And as Schwinn said earlier, and playing when Aubameyang can play on the left and Ozil can't really play on either wing, playing Aubameyang on the right where he truly is bad, just that is something I'll question him for. But yeah, just get him closer. Just get him closer to Lacazette if you're going to play the two of them. And I think that takes away your need for blinding athleticism.
It's difficult to sort of find any problems in there. So I'll swiftly move on to Hakon's last question, and this is for you, Tez. What kind of manager profile do you guys think would be the best fit? And if you have any names in mind, don't shy away from throwing those out.
I think we've got to look at our defence. We've got to teach these guys how to defend properly because they're just not doing it, and it's a weakness we've had for 2 years, maybe longer. You could even say Wenger's last season. It just keeps going on and on. We brought in David Luiz. We've brought in Socrates. So people, we've always said maybe it's the system, but I'm starting to think, well, maybe it could be a few of these players. They just don't know how to defend, or they're not very good at defending, or something. So somebody defensively. Look, Mourinho was obviously that bloke that I thought may get the job because of, he's very good at that. I don't know who's out and about. That, there's the names that have been thrown about, Allegri. Who else is there? Eddie Howe, he was another one. Brendan Rodgers, I've seen people throwing that name around. Just sign him today. But are they defensively minded managers? I don't know. But I want to try and set up. I'd like to see Arsenal set up a bit more defensively. We've got Pepe, we've got Aubameyang, we've got Lacazette, so we've got plenty of attack there. But it's the defence that just lets us down every single game.
Who is your Raul? Who are you approaching right now? Who's your first choice? I was going to ask this anyway, but obviously the questions come up.
Poch is who I'm approaching.
Who's your number one choice, Schwinn?
Same for me, Poch. Go get him.
Yeah, same.
I mean, I think apart from the ones that have been bandied about, and Tez mentioned them, it's really difficult to try and get someone else. I mean, I know, Tony, you're a big fan of Nagelsmann. And I look towards the German league and try and find suitors there. And there are a couple, but I wonder how difficult it's going to be mid-season to try and get someone out of there. With Poch's situation, I think I obviously don't know the specific involved in the contracts, etc. But I think he would probably be the most suitable, and not just in terms of profile, but in terms of situation, which is obviously a big deal when it comes to mid-season changes.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's not just like some people are going, oh yeah, I don't really want him, but it'd be funny because it'd piss Tottenham off. Even had he been at someone that wasn't Tottenham, but achieved exactly the same results in the last few years, he is my number one choice. I think he gets the best out of pretty much every player he works with. They may switch off of him after 3 or 4 years, like Dele Alli clearly did. But to be honest, I think we've got to stop looking for that manager that can be there for 15 to 20 years. That doesn't exist anymore. So you look at someone that gets the best out of their players for 3 years, and I'm happy with that. Also, if it's rumoured, well, if with the rumours that we're struggling financially or we don't really have a transfer kitty, he's perfect for that because he improves players so much. I mean, you look at some of the players Tottenham signed and everyone laughed. And they turn out, I mean, look, Ali, 5 million, turned out to be worth much more than that. Kane was already scoring when he was there, but like fucking Sissoko was the biggest laugh ever. And now he's a bona fide, I still wouldn't take him at us, but you don't laugh when you see him on the team sheet anymore. Son was always been good, but I mean, recently it's just looked unreal in the last year or so. And I believe he could sort of set our team up to play very similar to how we played with them. Use Aubameyang as a 9, use Pepe to play as the Son, but on the other side, uh, it's not just the laugh at Tottenham thing, which obviously does help, but I think the fit is very good.
I think to add to your point, even someone like Ericsson, who, you could, if you want to really bracket players, you could sort of bracket him with someone like Mesut. And initially, he disciplined Ericsson, and he started getting a lot more out of it, not just in terms of output, but in terms of work rate. And we all know Ericsson has turned out to be a pretty good signing for them ever since. So he's not just someone who relies on structure, but also someone who can be a disciplinarian. And that's something that we could benefit from, I feel. Well, there's a lot that he brings to the table.
Absolutely. And the last three, probably last 3-4 seasons, when we play the North London derby, and you watch it thinking, shit, this could be a game we may well and truly lose. Prior to that, I don't know about you boys, but it was always a derby, but I never was as nervous as I have been in the last probably 3 to 4 years. And that Tottenham team, he done great things with it, and they weren't, apart from Harry Kane, who I think is probably one of the best strikers going around. But prior to him, let's face it, they're not all superstars in that team. It's not like a Barcelona or something. He got the best out of them.
Mm. Just before we move on, I don't want to dwell on this for too long, but if Poch was not an option, do you guys have any second choices in mind?
I don't know if I have a standout second choice. I have a lot of choices where I wouldn't be angry. I've seen, like, Nuno was obviously linked very strongly, and I've seen a lot of people that say they really wouldn't be happy with it. I'm not saying I'd be running around in the street dancing and getting Nuno on the back of my shirt, but I really wouldn't be disappointed. I think he's another person that comes with great structure. He makes the team fit his mould, and I believe we've got the players to fit his mould. And I mean, the biggest excuse people go, but they're a counter-attacking team, but they're not. That's such a lazy comment. They're a counter-attacking team when they play United, City, Liverpool. And by the way, they get results against pretty much all of them every season. I think Liverpool were the only team they beat Liverpool in the cup, so they beat every one of the top teams last season, or got at least a draw off every one of the top teams last season. And yeah, they're counter-attacking them games, but they were coming up from the Championship and spent no money in comparison to what Liverpool, City, and us and Chelsea were spending. So I don't see that too negative criticism of him. As I said, I'm not saying he's like go and get him, snatch him from them. I'd prefer Rodgers over him. I saw Rodgers' press conference today where he said he had a release clause. I didn't know that. Again, he's not another one. He's not one that I'd be running out, going and paying release clause straight away. But I wouldn't be angry if he came. I'd be quite pleased. Probably similar with Allegri. I think Allegri, I'm not sure if it's just because it seems more probable that I'll be a bit more excited by it, or it's a bit more exotic. He's won things. His name is bigger around Europe. I know Tez isn't a big fan. I've not seen enough of him week in, week out to say if he fits well or not. Obviously, every time I watch the Italian league, they were winning 4 or 5-0. You watch them in the Champions League, they're getting great results. So I'm basing it off of probably only watching probably less than 10 full 90-minute games. But I would say he's probably my second choice. But there's quite a few choices that I wouldn't be disappointed with.
I'm going to say a couple of names that only because, look, obviously Poch is my first choice. I want a manager who's managed in England, who's done the hard yards, who knows, who can speak English for starters. I'm actually looking at an Eddie Howe, and only because Bournemouth, like, let's face it, realistically, do we think they're going to still be up in this level? He has done marvellous things at there at Bournemouth. I thought maybe one season then they'll be back down. So I never thought, what have they been up for 3-4 years now? So he's type of one that, look, I'm not going to be running out and going, hey, let's sign Eddie Howe. But if he come in, well, I'd think, well, hey, he's English. He can communicate with players. He could probably get the good best out of the players, and yeah, he's not a bad choice. Brendan Rodgers, would be another one. Nuno, as Tony said, but Brendan Rodgers, I just don't know with him because obviously he rose to the big challenges and obviously at Liverpool and whatnot, and then went back down and down and down. Obviously then got a job at Celtic, and let's face it, that Celtic they're no mugs of a team. So I just wonder whether Brendan Rodgers is that type of manager that can prove himself. I'm not saying Arsenal are a shit team because I still like to see us as a top 6 team, but we're struggling. And I don't know what discipline Brendan Rodgers brings to the table. So
I think this current run with Leicester has done wonders for his reputation, because if you asked when Emery took the job, who wants Rodgers, people will lie now, but I'd imagine at the time 99% of people would have gone, no chance.
Yeah.
Had one good season with Liverpool, blah, blah, blah. This run with Leicester, and I know it's not even been a year yet, but he has improved them massively. And you look at them, you watch them now, and like, say, for example, you saw that they had City at home next week. You wouldn't be going, City are definitely going to win that. I now look at them as a team that, on their day, I wouldn't be surprised if they beat a City or a Liverpool.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess you've got to give him credit for that. But it's just, I think this short, even though it's only been such a short spell, has done wonders for his reputation. Probably more than what that season at Liverpool done for him, because they had Suarez, who was playing unbelievable.
Yeah, it was a good team, and look, even at Celtic, so when 2 years there he was at, so, or was it 1.5? No, anyway, I can't remember. But who else? The Burnley manager, Sean Dyche.
Sean Dyche.
I don't know. That was maybe another name I'm thinking, but fucking, am I scraping the bottom of the biscuit barrel, like with these guys?
Yeah, that's exactly what you're doing.
I really like Sean Dyche, but I wouldn't go anywhere near him for Arsenal. I also wouldn't go anywhere near Eddie Howe, though. So.
Yeah. I just want a guy
just before we quickly
communicate.
Move on.
Well, Shrim, what about you? Because we've answered.
I mean, I seriously consider Eddie Howe. I said this before we got Emery, and I'm a big fan. I understand there's a bit of an issue with terms of stature and coming into the Arsenal. He may not be the highest earning. He will not be the highest earning person in the dressing room, and that can sometimes lead to a tussle. We often spoke about who's going to outlast, who's going to be at the Arsenal longer, Mesut Ozil or Emery. And more often than not, it turned out to be Mesut Ozil because of the finances involved. And you could easily make that argument in the future if something goes wrong in the dressing room with Eddie Howe. Having said that, I'm a big fan of the guy, just for the reasons that Tez just said. So I'd consider him. But before we move on, just a quick one-word answer. Arteta or Lundberg?
Oh, Jesus. I have to say
Go
Arteta.
on, Tony.
I have to say Arteta.
Okay.
I'm going to use more than one word. We don't know. we literally, we've never seen... Well, we've seen Lundberg manage one game, and it's unfair to judge because we've always used that excuse of, it wasn't their team. This is the ultimate of not being his team. And we've seen Arteta manage 0. I said last week on here that Arteta's always linked with clubs that he's previously been at, Rangers, Everton, City, us. So everyone must really hold him in high regard, all the players he's worked with and all the backroom staff he's interacted with. But as fans, we don't get to see that. So we are basing our thoughts on Arteta's ability purely on just what people are saying. So I wouldn't know how to answer that. Give them both a season somewhere and I'll give you an answer. But at the moment, I don't know.
My only reason I
fair.
said Arteta is because, when you do an apprenticeship under Pep, you come with a bit of more than nothing against Freddie, but you just come with a bit more. Yeah.
People say that, and that's a lot of people's reasons for choosing Arteta. Who was Pep's last assistant before that, and where's he now? And who was his assistant before that, and where's he now? It doesn't guarantee just because you work under a genius doesn't mean. Brian Kidd was there before Arteta, and I think in Arteta's first year, he was ahead of Arteta. Arteta was third coach, and Brian Kidd was assistant. I've not seen anyone ask for him. Not probably 99% of people don't even know who he is. Do you know what I mean? He could be brilliant. I'm not saying he's not, but I just think saying, well, he's worked under Pep, which seems to be the only reason anyone has for him, is like, well, so what sort of thing? Like I said, who is his assistant at Bayern and where's he? Who is his assistant at wherever and where's he? He probably has had some that have gone on to be managers, but it's that it doesn't automatically go, oh, you worked under a genius, so now you're a genius. That's not how it worked. Otherwise, we'd just have a conveyor belt of managers.
I think I agree with you completely. But having said that, there's two things we should remember. That at Barcelona, of course, Tito Villanova was the one that followed Pep, and I think he was the assistant. And he went on to do good things, and then, of course, tragically pass away. At Bayern, however, I don't remember who the assistant was. But in All or Nothing, which was the Manchester City documentary that came out with Amazon, Pep actually mentions that Arteta is very central to some of the tactics, not just the relationships with players, but even to tactical sessions and enforcing new tactics, studying opponents. Arteta was very central. Now we don't know to what extent he was a part of that, but there seems to be, even within the City camp that's been publicized, there is something. There's a very important position that Arteta holds. Having said that, once again, we don't know how much of that's going to translate once he is the man calling the shots as the manager, because then he has to delegate all of this, something that Arteta hasn't quite done yet. So I agree with you. I think there's a lot more that we need to see from both of them, from Freddie and from Arteta. And I mean, to Freddie's credit, he's actually been a manager before. I know it was with the academy, but he's actually done it before, as opposed to Arteta. So it is a bit of a coin toss, and ideally it'd be neither. But I just thought it'd be an interesting discussion, so I threw that out there.
Yeah, and also, Arteta won a cup with us, but in general, I think that was the only trophy he won in his career. He might have won stuff with Rangers, but that don't really count. So it's, like you were saying with Eddie Howe, they can questioning they earn more than him, but with Lundberg, no one can say to him, well, what have you done? Because he can go, well, see that gold trophy that no one else has ever won. Yeah, I done that. Whereas Arteta is like, oh, well, you won one FA Cup. Yeah, brilliant, mate. Well done. I've got 5 of them in my bed.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You boys, we'll obviously talking about assistant manager, so I had to have a look at this. Did you mention Brian Kidd, Tony?
Yeah.
He was actually, and I didn't know, so he was actually an assistant manager to Alex Ferguson as well.
Yeah, he was Ferguson before.
When you actually put it like that,
but that's what I'm saying. He's been under Pep, under Ferguson, and no one ever thought that's the geezer we want as manager.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, okay. Interesting. Okay. All
right, let's move on. Another regular MAA gunner says, it's obvious that the constant change in partnerships are damaging our defense. Tez, what back four in midfield would you play game in, game out?
Socrates. What's happened with Holding?
Fuck knows. Absolutely no idea. Wasn't in the squad today. Wasn't in the squad today.
Is he
apparently not
injured or what? No,
not on the injured. Well, not that we're being told.
Oh, look, we type of done a thing on, I think, at the start of the season, like who was our pairing. I probably said at the time I like Chambers there somewhere. Maybe I've changed my mind now. I'm probably thinking Holding and Socrates. Like, they're the type of the two who I think should just continue. Chambers. I like Chambers. He's done all right, Chambers, but he just has that. He has a silliness in his game at times, and we've seen it. We've seen it yesterday or today. So they're probably my two. Was that the question?
Back four and midfield.
Back four. So obviously, Granit Torreira. I like this journey, kid. Even though I was a bit late to the party with you, but but I like him. So he starts there, Holding Socrates in the centre, and you have to go Bellerin on the right.
Tony?
The only change I'd make from that as of right now is I'd have Louise instead of Holding as of this moment. But what I would say is just tell Socrates you don't have to play football. Because he started up last season, he was our best defender. Like, you get the ball, you kick the ball. It's fine. You're not a cultured centre back that's going to be sliding the ball into midfield. If you've got time on the ball, fine, make the simple pass. But we see him getting caught time and time again. And then his confidence gets affected because we roll it out to him from goal kicks and he's trying to thread a ball into midfield that he just can't do. That's fine. Just defend. Just be someone, head it, kick it, smash it. They're your jobs. That's all we need from you. With them instructions, that would be my pairing. And then you've got Louise that can bail him out of trouble. I think that the midfield needs to sit slightly deeper, and I would go Torreira and Granit as well. I mean, we're going to get hammered for leaving Guendouzi out, probably by you, because I know you love Guendouzi. But I've been saying it for a while. I think he causes us more problems than the positives he gives us.
Tony, just on that though, with David Luiz, do you think he's better? Because I agree with what you're saying, but do you think he's a better impact player off the bench?
I don't think any defender is ever an impact player.
Okay, just because I
think if you're trying to be an impact player as a defender, you should leave and go to a club that you're a star.
Okay, no, just because he has that great through balls and great passing ability in his game, and he does offer you a lot more than a lot of other defenders cannot offer you. So he could almost nearly play as a midfielder.
Yeah, look, he's half decent at holding midfield. I think especially if you are going to play out from the back, and I don't think we're going to be as we was with Emery, where it was your only option. You have to play out from the back regardless. But we are still going to try and play out from the back. And I think you have to have someone who's able to ping that ball 30, 40 yards in between lines and pick out a man. Holding's passing is decent, but it's not Luiz's level, if we're honest. And I think if you're going to have Socrates there as a head it, kick it, smash it, then you need someone that can play that cultured, a bit more, force the ball through to midfield needed, clip it out wide if needed, play in behind if needed, and he is quite good at that. I think if you get other defenders around him as well, I don't think he's as big a liability as people think he is. He's going to look at in this current Arsenal team, but I maintain that you could probably put Mustafi in some teams and he'd look quite good if you had people covering him around him, and like defend a decent shape. I think anyone that you put in this current Arsenal centre back pairing, I think anyone would look calamitous.
Hard to disagree. Yeah, hard to disagree with any of that. And yeah, Tony, you were bang on. I'd throw in Guendouzi instead of Granit for sure. Not going to take away from his performance today, but that's what I would do long term.
Your hatred on Granit's just very sad, mate. Very sad.
Shrim was booing it when he got subbed off. Shrim was booing
it. How did you know? I wasn't even in the stadium.
Yeah.
Let's move on swiftly because we have a lot of questions to get through. And I'm going to throw this back to you, Tez, and then the next two can go to Tony. So, MW Gunner, once again, should we be looking for a right back? If so, should there be an upgrade to Bellerin or a backup to Bellerin? In my opinion, he's not good enough, and it's looking like he'll be getting injured quite often.
The poor bugger. I like Bellerin. I like what he offers, but he's struggled through injury, hasn't he? Let's face it. How long will it take him to get back to the speed and the best that he was, and will he ever get back to that? Who knows? His question on another right back, though, I'm racking my brain as I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, what's a right back going to cost you? And I agree we need another right back, but at what expense? Are we talking a $70 million player? Are we talking a $10 million player? Or pounds. That's my only issue. For me, you need a backup for Hector. But then you've got Chambers who can play right back. You've also got Maitland-Niles who can play right back. People are going to say, but Maitland-Niles isn't a right back. I think there's other places in this team that need fixing before we look too much at a right back.
Tony, the next question sort of ties in with this, and it's about Maitland-Niles. MW Gunner, once again, what are your thoughts on the rumor that he's having attitude issues in training? So can you sort of combine those two questions and give us a response?
It's I knew that was going to come as soon as he's out of the team, and it's something that, like, there's questions. Why wasn't he in the squad on Thursday? Why wasn't he in the squad today? Especially when you knew Hector was going to be out for both, so you thought him and Chambers would split them games, and they haven't. People have always questioned his attitude, so I knew that a story would leak from someone saying, "Oh, his attitude's terrible," and there you go. As soon as the squad's announced, one of the in the knows that Maitland-Niles' attitude is terrible. Shock, fucking horror. Look, he is much better suited to the way we try and play at right back than Chambers. I like Callum Chambers. I'd have an argument if he played there. If he'd have played the last 5 games there, he would have probably been in my 2 as a centre back when we just done who should be our solid back line. The only reason he's not is because he's not played there enough. But as the way we're trying to play, we get our fullbacks high. Maitland-Niles is much quicker to recover. He crosses the ball much better. The only area as a right back where he's slightly weaker, well, not slightly, a hell of a lot weaker, is he's not as tall, so he's not as good in the air. But we never ping goal kicks to that side of the pitch anyway. And I think Raul Jimenez beat Chambers at the back post for Wolves equaliser against us, and he would have beat Maitland-Niles there. So that one strength, I don't think has come into anything. And it sounds a bit harsh on Chambers because bar today, I don't think he's been bad. I just think Maitland-Niles is much more suited what we need to do, and I don't know. Look, maybe it is his attitude, but that's keeping him out of the squad. But has it really changed in the last 18 months? And that story coming out today was the least unsurprising story to come out of Arsenal since Emery being sacked.
That takes care of 2 questions at once. Fantastic. Last question from MWA Gunner. Why do you think we set up as a diamond today?
Did we? I don't think we did.
Yes. For you, well, 4-3-3. Not quite a diamond, of course. Mezet maybe drifting in every now and then. Maybe that's what MWA saw. But why do you think we set up the way we did?
Is that an answer?
It is. It's a tough question. It really is.
Because the answer is I have no fucking idea. It was clearly fucking wrong, and we knew that as soon as we saw the team sheet. Why do I think? I don't want to say Lundberg's an idiot because he's been there 10 minutes, but why do I think? Because he ain't got a fucking clue what he's doing.
Well, 24 hours. Let's just say 24 hours before people start getting pissed with us.
Did I see correctly that there was a Freddie out trending?
Apparently, I read that about an hour before we started recording.
Yeah, I did.
As soon as the team sheet came out, there was a Freddie out hashtag trending somewhere.
Jesus Christ.
Well, another good friend of the pod, Gunnar Jim, also chimes in with something related to that. He says, disgraceful. If this was an Emery team, you would all be calling for Zed. Hashtag fuck Freddie off. Also great to have you back, Tez.
Well, let's face it, we would, wouldn't we?
There was loads of people in the ground saying that. Loads of people. And not fuck Freddie off, but let's not pretend this team, he's reinvented the wheel, because had this team been announced on Thursday, we'd have all been moaning.
Yeah. Just.
Yeah. I think it's also fair to recognize that this is more Emery's team than it is Freddie's team. I mean, it's as I said, it's been 24 hours. The man needs a bit more time before he can sort of inflict his own identity into the players and onto the team. So I agree. If this was Emery's team, we would be calling for Zed, as we have been for the last few months. But at the same time, this isn't quite Freddie's team yet. So we sort of have to recognize that and caveat our response with that.
My counter argument is you're completely right. It's not even close to being Freddie's team. I think you're not giving him enough credit in a sense. But it doesn't have to be your team to know that Ozil was a 10. And as I said, as much as I like him, if you're not playing him at 10, don't put him on the pitch. And I assume there'd be questions on it, but because I haven't so far, I'm going to get onto it now. The substitutions were fucking horrendous. Can someone tell me what Saka has done to be ahead of Pepe? Okay, maybe he's injured, whatever, they don't like him. How the hell is he ahead of Martinelli? How the hell is anyone ahead of Martinelli at this point? I think Martinelli done more in 5 minutes than fucking most of the players done in the game.
All I can put it down to, Tony, is, and nothing against Freddie, he's just walked into the job, right? But I just don't think he knows what kind of players they are. He hasn't worked with them long enough. It's more of a dig from me. It's more of a dig at Emery, to be fair, because look, Freddie worked with Saka all last season, so okay, you know what you can give him. I don't agree with it, but I can see the reasons. For what reason Emery was playing Saka ahead of Martinelli? I ain't got a clue. I mean, I'm at the point where I think it's going to be hard to leave Martinelli out, and I don't even know how you fit him into a starting lineup. But if you gave me the game again today, I'd have Martin in the positions they played. I'd have Martinelli over Ozil without hesitation. I'd probably nearly have him over Lacazette. Because let's face it, Lacazette's been poor.
I
for the
can't
last
say
few
that because I'd
games.
get lynched. I'm not allowed to be negative about Lacazette.
Well, mate,
It's not saying I
Lacazette's
don't
been,
absolutely agree with you,
yeah.
but I'm not allowed to.
Well, he's been poor. I just, and we touched on that chance in today's game against Norwich, and he's just, I don't know, his head's down. He hasn't got the energy. He's poor. This Martinelli kid, mate, he's fucking give me every chance I got. I'd be benching Lacazette. Have a sook on the fucking sideline, you cunt.
I said in today's team, I would have, the way they shaped up, I would have started Martinelli over Ozil and let him run on the left. But it just, I mean, as I said, all of the subs, I mean, he went more negative. Obviously, he took Willock out and put Torreira in, and it was like, well, why have we done that? And then I didn't really know where anyone was playing when Saka came on. He came on for Guendouzi, and it was, okay, I thought that Ozil was going to go into a 10, but he didn't really. It was just all a bit. And then Martinelli came on, and he was actually at 10 for the first minute or so, and we were sitting there thinking, what the fuck is going on? And then he kind of switched left, but it seemed like Saka was also on the left. I don't know if Saka was meant to move into the middle, and it just didn't quite happen, or it didn't transpire like that. But again, it rings of the Emery subs where you're looking at it and think, what have you done? Not why have you done it, because everyone has their reasons, but what have you done? Like, why? What has gone through your head? What was the thought process?
Look, you said earlier in the pod that you know 3 games is probably too much for Freddie, and I three games you type of want to be starting to see somebody else come in, and I agree with you because my problem is with Freddie is just not enough experience. And I think he's going to go to your Saka, your Willocks, your younger players that he knows well, and so he's probably going to go back to his strengths of them players.
I don't mind that if he's got the conviction to do it. So if you're going to do that, don't start Ozil on the left. Put Willock in, put Saka in. At least he's a natural left winger, and instead of Ozil there. I think today, I don't know, look, maybe he's just not had enough time. And I feel like I've been really critical of him on there, and I don't really mean to be because it's not fair. He's not had long enough. But I think today was such a half and half. Like, he's put Willock in because he knows him and he's done well for him. Even though I thought Willock was quite poor on Thursday. And like it's kind of like he's gone half and half. If you're gonna go with something, go with it fully. And if you're not gonna go with it, don't go with it fully. I think today really half and half.
Yeah, I agree. Do you think, though, if he left Ozil out, would it be, he doesn't like Ozil now? Emery didn't like Ozil? It
doesn't matter. Like, probably, but that shouldn't matter. If you want to be a manager and this is how you see the team setting out, and you want the team to play in a certain way and Ozil doesn't fit that, you can't pander to him. And again, this is coming from someone that likes Ozil and would have him in the team, but only in a certain setup that suits him. I know you're right that there would be the moan, another manager comes in and drops Ozil, blah, blah, blah. But in that setup, you're better off without him. And I mean, I assume Shrim would admit that as someone who would lick Ozil's arse off if he'd let him.
I mean, I agree that in the right sense, he should have been left out. But I think Tez's point is a bit more real, that he has to sort of play him at least for the first game. And if he's not good enough, then you have a reason to not play him the next week. Because you cannot let that become the talking point,
but then
irrespective of how the result goes on.
But then it goes back to the Emery argument of, are you setting him up to fail? Because he's never going to play well there. You could play every match for the rest of the season on the left wing, you won't have a good game.
You totally could, but I think you need a bit more sample size to make that argument. One game may not be enough, but if we see that in the next game, and then maybe even in the next game after that, then yeah, I think there is scope for that argument. One game, perhaps not so, because you could argue that he saw something tactically. It didn't work out, but he saw something tactically and thought, well, let's give this a go for that one game.
I mean, I'd be
cost
surprised.
Cost us 2 points. The end of the
What's
day.
new about that?
No, I don't know. I think it was all wrong today. It was the whole, and I so don't want to be critical of Freddie, like one game in.
Well, this is where you can forgive him for his selection because, as I said, he's got players that played 90 minutes on Thursday. It's not. He basically picked what he can, really. This is where on Thursday I think we find out a lot more about him.
If Pepe doesn't return, If Pepe
If he
doesn't
does the same
return,
again on Thursday, they need to get him out the door ASAP because you can't go picking half and half teams or just picking Emery's team. You got to be your own man. If you're coming in as a caretaker with someone who apparently has aspirations to get the job long term, be it now or in a year, you've got to be your own man. You can't be a clone of the guy who just wasn't good enough.
yeah, totally agree. All right, Schwinn, take
Let's
it away,
move on
mate.
swiftly. Zurupa Bob chimed in with a question which you guys sort of talked about in this question about Pepe, Saka, and Martinelli. So thank you for your question, but we'll move on to the next one. Cosmin Buta, two-part tweet, so try and keep up with this, Tony, because this is coming to you. Slight improvement, a bit more desire shown from the players. We were a bit quicker with our passing going forward. At 2-2, everything went chaotic. Not sure why, no Pepe, but I guess there has to be a good reason behind it. Don't think we can play with two strikers at the moment. Norwich played rather okay. It was a well-sewn team with developed patterns and relationships. This was a match I never expected us to win easily, and I believe that this was a game we would have lost with Emery in charge. Any comment on that?
I kind of argue about the good football bit. I thought the first 20 we looked as good as a footballing side as we've looked in a long, long time. And then he says the game got chaotic at 2-2. We got really, really shit at 2-2. That 20-minute period or whatever it was an absolute shambles. I don't know how we didn't concede. We should have conceded about 10 seconds after. I think it was Cantwell hit a ball on the stretch that just went wide, and then obviously Leno made 2 or 3 very good saves. Look, I mean, it's very easy to say we would have lost this game under Emery, and then look, it might be right. We'll never know. As I always say, if my auntie had a cock, she'd be my uncle. Norwich it's difficult because you say, I just went to say Norwich are a good team, and look, they played well today, but they're not a good team. They're second bottom. They beat City and pretty much haven't beat anyone since, apart from a struggling Everton. Watford's only win was at Carrow Road. Watford have won 1 game this season. They're going to be on their 3rd manager of the season by tomorrow, and that 1 win was at Norwich. So we can't look. Norwich did play well today, but did we let them play well? I don't think we can come out of this saying, oh, yeah, good team. It's a good point. It's absolutely not a good point. Under the circumstances, maybe it is, but I don't think we should be changing the narrative to a point at Carrow Road is not a bad result, because it is.
I agree with you, but fucking hell. Fucking Norwich City.
The drop in expectations is so drastic, isn't it?
Have you seen
It's
that? You look
shocking.
on Twitter and they go, oh, not a bad point away at Carrow Road. And I think, fuck off.
I haven't seen it yet.
Not a single one of their players would get in our team. Oh, and sorry, I just got to mention, he says we can't play 2 strikers together. Well, we didn't anyway, because Aubameyang and fucking Lacazette were playing in different postcodes, I think.
Yeah. But how many times, like, let's go back 12 months, how many times we're calling for Aubameyang and Lacazette to play together? How many fans are calling for that? Absolutely,
I think if they play up front, they can. Just not with...
Oh, the one on the wing, yeah.
Even if Aubameyang plays on the left and he's slightly tucked in, we've seen that happen loads of times, and it's not ideal, but it works. It's passable, because Aubameyang's always going to get into the back post anyway, and he's close enough to Lacazette because he's tucked in. Playing on the right, he doesn't want to tuck in because he can't use his left foot, so he stays really wide. I was as close to the pitch as he was most of the time because I'm on the touchline and he's on the touchline. The linesman he was marking the linesman for long periods of that game. He's never been great on the right, and as I said, because he wants to stay on his right foot, so he ends up on the touchline, the gap between him and Lacazette is even bigger. Then Ozil's not making the run in behind the other side because that's not his game. He's not going to run in behind. He's not quick enough. That's not his style. And you just end up with 3 players that are nowhere near each other, or Lacazette holds it, gives it to Ozil, but then Lacazette stood still because he's holding it. Aubameyang's 60 yards away. Then you're relying on Guendouzi to try and break from midfield, who's got 1 goal in his career. And you're like, how is this ever going to work?
Tony, who would you give me your ideal formation for yesterday's game?
What I would have gone 4-2-3-1 with Ozil at 10, Pepe, Laka, and Aubameyang. Obviously, we don't know about the Pepe situation. We've got to believe he's fit because he's been on the bench the last 2 games.
Yeah, it's weird, strange.
But I mean, even in the pub before the game, I thought to be honest, we all thought that's what he would do because we thought, look, he'll just get the fans on side. If he'd have done that and lost, we wouldn't have been like, oh, he's gone to attack him. We'd have been like, oh, look, he's come in, he hasn't had enough time, but he's tried to get us really attacking, really on the front foot. He's tried to batter them. That's the Arsenal style. That's what we want to see. And we would have accepted it. I genuinely believe we'd have accepted a loss if he would have done that.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? You'd say, "Oh, look what he's trying to do. We
Yeah,
can
he's
see it. He
trying
went back
something. Yeah,
inside."
yeah,
Yeah.
no, I agree. I agree.
So yeah, and I think literally in the pub, I don't think there was anyone I spoke to that said anything other than that.
Mm. No, I agree. Hard to disagree, mate.
I'm going to rewind the discussion just a bit because that sort of ties in with the question that Rudran sent in. And Tez, why do you think that Arsenal and Aubameyang are paying the price for carrying Lacazette? He asks. Why does Auba have to be so deep and wide? What has Lacazette done to be higher in the pecking order?
I don't know. Look, he was a player of the Arsenal's Player of the Year last year, voted by fans. I don't know whether they take that into account. I don't know. I think we struggle. It's a fucking good headache to have two outstanding strikers. Like, let's face it, when Lacazette came to the club, we were all clapping and new beauty, and then Aubameyang came, and it was like, holy shit! Now we've got two-star strikers. I think it's hard to leave them out, but how do you fit two strikers in? So I think it's just a massive headache for whoever manages Arsenal. They're two different players, Lacazette and Aubameyang, but you've got to try and put them there together. And the way that we're using the both of them is wrong. It's they've Aubameyang on the right or the left, doesn't matter where he is. He plays his best positional striker. And I think we looked at some stats last year when Aubameyang came in, and I think it was more goals as a striker, something like that. It was. He's not a winger, so I don't know. You can add something to it, Tony, if you want, but I think that's the problem we have.
Yeah, just going back to answering the question is what has Lacazette done to be able to make Aubameyang the one that moves? I think it's as simple as that Lacazette can only play there and Aubameyang can half do a job. Well, I'd say he can half do a job on the left and quarter do a job on the right. He's someone that can stand there because he's relatively quick. Whereas Lacazette, you can't play him. I mean, there's always been, and I'm including myself in this, there's always been theories of sort of try him as a 10, but we've never actually seen it happen. So while we've seen Aubameyang play in other areas and still have an impact, I mean, look, you two both gave him your 3 today, even though he was on the right. Whereas if you play Lacazette anywhere else but 9, he just wouldn't do anything at all and wouldn't be in any ratings, apart from maybe at 10 where there's speculation, but we've never seen it. I don't agree with it that Aubameyang should be the one moved about, but what do you do with Lacazette? Do you completely drop him? Yeah, I mean, I would probably say yeah, but then Lacazette got our Player of the Year, and I'll be absolutely lynched for saying that. Like, people, they will get tweets tomorrow saying I don't know what I'm on about, and that may be true. But
do you?
I mean, look, no, personally, to be honest, that's wrong. Personally, I play them both together as strikers. But if you're only going to play one of them, I've said this a million times, it'd be Aubameyang. And if you're going to play both of them, but one of them has to play out of position, then it is always going to be Aubameyang because he's able to play elsewhere. Not as good, but he's still going to get you goals. I said he was dog shit today. He got 2 goals. Like,
so on the right.
What's the they'll see that as what's the harm in moving him if he's still going to get the 2 goals that he probably would have got as he played up front. But for me, you lose a hell of a lot.
You lose heaps. And we're going to sound like we fucking hate Lacazette here, but I think as you said, you got to play both of them together. I personally think Lacazette should be sold. I think you've got Martinelli who's done nothing wrong all season. He's biting at the bit. I think now's the time, either January or the end of the season, you sell Lacazette. There's talk that we don't have money. There's talk we don't have much of a transfer budget. There's talk every year of that. There's talk that we can't pay $14 million or £1 million for Brendan Rodgers. So what do you get for Lacazette today or come January?
But I think just going back, I don't know. But going back on what we were just saying, I think part of the frustration today is with the players on the pitch. We could have at any time very easily switched to a 4-3-1-2 or a diamond, a 4-4-2 with a diamond, like MAA Gunner suggested. We had the players on the pitch. We could have done that comfortably. And it's a bit worrying / annoying that at no point did he think this isn't really working. Let's just move Willock slightly deeper or Willock to the right, Guendouzi left and put Ozil at 10 and move the other 2 up front. it is doable to get them both to play together, and that would be my first option before selling Lacazette, if I'm honest, because you're only one injury away, or a game where we can't get in behind and you need someone to twerk on centre backs and put his arse in them to hold the ball up. But I don't know what he's worth. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Any thoughts on any of that, Schwinn?
It's difficult. I mean, look, I think we all agree that Aubameyang is the better player, and in terms of goal scoring, he's the one we need to rely on, especially if you have to choose one of the two. But we have to also consider getting our best players out there. And as Tony said, it's simply a lack of ability when it comes to Lacazette in terms of dynamism. You just cannot deploy him anywhere else, and that's why he gets the nod ahead of Aubameyang. For me, the bigger question remains: why is Aubameyang on the right in the first place? If you're going to play him and Lacazette, at least play them either close enough so that, as Tony said, they're not 60 yards apart, or let Aubameyang play on the left, and you shoehorn Mesut onto the right if you're not going to play him as a 10. That's the obvious thing to do in that department, but that question, that selection today is very baffling. It goes against everything we have seen, and as to Tony's point, Lundberg should know that coming into the game. It's something that even a fan that doesn't watch the game but follows it on Twitter week in, week out would know that that's not how you go about setting up your front three. So there's a lot of difficulty in answering this question because Lundberg got that wrong. And if this is a pattern, then you could argue that he's setting up Mesut to fail, and to an extent Aubameyang is going to have to suffer because of that as well.
Well, he can't keep going. He can't keep Ozil on the left, Aubameyang on the right. And Martinelli, like for me, at the moment, on form, he should be ahead of Lacazette. So the question I would be asking is, how come Lacazette's getting in ahead of Martinelli at the moment on form? I know it's price tag, but Lacazette, he's been very poor.
I think in slight defence of Lacazette a lot of defence of Lacazette, it's a different option. Martinelli is not going to hold the ball up, and Lacazette does do that very well. So it's giving you a different option. As I said, in what we played today, Martinelli would have been playing on the left for me. And then even if you've not started him, he wanted to try Mez there for whatever, if he did see some tactical reason, the very first sub would have been Martinelli. He ended up coming as the last sub and then starting off a 10, which is weird. But I don't know what it is. Maybe they want to ease him in. I know we always hear that with young players, but he doesn't seem like the type of player that wants to or needs to be eased in. So seems like he wants to be up to battle and fight and get involved. And they're happy to play him 90 minutes in Europe. I was saying that he got subbed off the other day. That was saying that it's a different manager. When he got subbed off the other day, quite bafflingly, on Thursday, there was a few people in the ground. Well, there was only a few people in the ground anyway, but a couple of them were thinking like, oh, maybe that means he's starting on Sunday, like, because he was our best player. So people have, we've seen enough of him. We've given him 55 minutes or whatever it was. Rest him for the weekend. Maybe that was the plan, but then Emery got sacked. We don't know. Oh, also, just at half time, and I saw Charles Watts tweeted this as well. Martinelli warmed up with the coach, which usually means you're coming on within 5 minutes. You're either coming on at half time, or they're giving the players 5 minutes to sort of fix it, and then you're going to come on if they don't. It was very weird because he must have just asked the coach to help him warm up. He didn't warm up with the rest of the group. He done the most active warm up by far, and then ends up going and sitting on the bench for another 40 minutes. Really strange.
Very odd.
All right, I'm going to pause here, boys, because I got to go. But is it possible for you to take over questions, Tony?
Yeah, 1 sec. Let me load. Yeah.
Sorry, I messaged on the group about 5 minutes ago.
That's all right.
My deadline's approaching.
All good, mate. All good. Oh, yeah, I saw you there. All good. Well, you have a good one, Schwinn, and we'll catch up with you, buddy.
For sure. Thanks for having me on. Sorry I've been missing, but I'll try and make it again as soon as possible.
You're right. I'm not editing this out because I'm too lazy, so just continue on.
All right.
See you, bud.
Cheers, boys. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Righto.
So obviously I'm now taking over the questions, but I think the order, he must be seeing a different order to me. Okay. So I'm just going to read questions out, and maybe we've listened to them, maybe we haven't. Sandeep Singh says, we seem to have improved a bit in possession and reduced the number of shots we faced. Fans are looking for a scapegoat as always. Yes, Musti and Luiz could have defended better, but I do understand why he played them. Give Freddie some time to apply his way of playing. Thoughts?
How much time do you want to give Freddie? How many points you're willing to sacrifice? How often, how much do you want to slide down the ladder? I don't get the Mustafi at all. It baffles me. I don't get the Pepe at all. The team that he put out, any other manager, and we've already said it, we would be critical. That's about it, mate. I got nothing else. But yeah, it's just very, very strange.
Yeah, I think this isn't, as I said before, this is a bit of an in-between where we can kind of let him off a bit because he's had a day, and I think this is where Thursday's really telling. If he does the same sort of thing, he needs to be out. I'm not saying Freddie out. I just mean we need another manager ASAP. I'm not saying, again, I guess it's the same thing as saying Freddie out. But I'm sitting here being honest. I don't want him to be our manager long term.
No, it's experience. Yeah, we want an experienced manager. Years ago, let's face it, Arsenal took a risk with Wenger many, many years ago, as we all know. Now, it paid off, didn't it? Does lightning strike twice?
Yeah, but not even that. Wenger, we took a risk, but Wenger had won leagues in France. He was doing good things in Japan. I know Japan's not a hotbed of football, but he'd been a manager in top leagues. Ljungberg hasn't done anything. And look, I want Ljungberg to stay at the club. I want him to be the number two.
Yeah.
And in time, he can be our manager. So this goes on to the next question. Sandeep again. Thoughts on giving Freddie till New Year to improve the results? Arsenal should have lined up the successor to Emery several weeks ago when Josh and co were already discussing Emery's departure. The succession plan is appalling. I'm going to go on what I said earlier. I'll be very disappointed if Ljungberg is manager. I said 3 games, but I think Man City is our 4th, and they won't want to give a new manager Man City as the first game. So I will be disappointed if he is our manager come in 4 more games. 3 more games now. I had a feeling based on absolutely nothing, and I think I'm now wrong, that they hadn't let. There was always all these rumours he's going to add this guy to his backroom staff, that guy, that he's going to bring him in, and then they basically just gave him Mertesacker, who you don't need to give him a contract. He's already at the club.
He's there.
Yep. So I thought my thinking was they've already got someone. Basically, it's just not the I's are not dotted and the T's not crossed yet. So he'll only do a game or 2. There's now rumours that tomorrow they're going to announce a couple of backroom staff, one of them being Robert Pires, who, although he practically lives at the training ground, isn't on a contract. What's difficult here is if they start handing out people contract, then they're not going to be bringing someone in. Like, are they going to really bring, say, I don't know, whoever, just Gilberto Silva? Are they going to bring him in and then in a week get a new manager and say, oh, by the way, you're going as well because the new manager doesn't want you?
It's very strange.
Probably not. So if they let Ljungberg build a backroom staff, I don't think we'll get a new manager. And unless they bring in, as I said, Pires will probably go on a pay-as-you-go sort of thing. So he's not a problem. Mertesacker's not a problem because he's on the wage structure anyway. It's if they start bringing in outside people, I'll start to worry because, as I said, I don't want Ljungberg as a manager for any length of time. Not now.
My problem is what do we got? 21 points sacrificed in December. You've got Brighton, West Ham, Manchester City, Everton, Bournemouth, Chelsea, and then 2nd of January, Manchester United. So, yes, I'm not confident. I'm not confident of Chelsea. I'm not confident of Everton, Man City, Man United. I could nearly say West Ham as well, and you might jag a win against Brighton. So, come December, we could be well and truly down the ladder, and then what are we going to be going? Oh, that's Freddie's fault. I don't want that. I don't want to be. Oh, it's Freddie's fault. Get him out.
So could damage him long term. If we think he's going to be a manager in sort of 2 or 3 years, but if he has a disastrous 8-game spell now, then he suddenly loses that option to be a manager in 2 years because everyone will just remember that spell.
8 games.
Yeah, so
I feel for him.
I want him not mainly for his sake, well, for our sake, my sake as a fan, our sake as a club, his sake as a potential future manager. I want him out of that role as quickly as possible. Look, I'd love him to succeed. I want everyone to succeed.
Yep.
But from what I think will happen, I would rather him out the role as soon as possible, to be honest. Moving on, FPL Canada. Why would Freddie adopt Emery-like values? Poor team selection, still playing out from the back, late substitution and wrong ones too. If Freddie's here until the summer, we'll stumble into 7th or 8th and no one will be renewing their contract. Is there dark days ahead? I mean, it's pretty much what we've been saying.
Dark days ahead. The problem, look, if no one renews contracts, that's very, very dark days. What do we got? Lacazette and Aubameyang both due, are they? And a few more.
They've got a year and a half, I think.
Okay.
Sugar Daddy Clay, how come we struggle to replicate the defensive performances of 2014 to 2016? We didn't need world-class budgets then. What are we missing from the system? Did Bold keep us more defensively sound?
I think Santi's a big one.
Yeah, well, I mean, we had defenders that complemented each other perfectly. Mertesacker was slow, but he very rarely made a mistake, and he led the line very well. So that is, I would say, part of a system. Koscielny was rapid, and he could 9 times out of 10 cover Mertesacker's lack of pace, and Mertesacker could cover the reading of the game.
Yeah.
We also had Coquelin, who was at that time was very limited, but because of that, it was actually a blessing because he would just stay in front of the defence because he couldn't do anything else. And that sounds like a criticism, but it's not. It made him perfect because he knew he couldn't do anything else, so he just done what he was good at. His problem started when Santi got injured, and then he thought he could play football as well. Like, no, just tackle him. And you're right, on the other side of the thing, we very rarely turn over the ball because Santi was so good at keeping it that teams very rarely had quick attacks on us because you give it to Santi and you knew he'd get back. Without here now at the moment, it's like they could nick it and they'll run in on goal. Where Santi's pass completion was crazy high, and he could play all types of passes, which is probably the issue we have at the moment. Santi could play long, short. He could play at both feet, which made things quicker. And you'd say between the players now they can do that thing. Xhaka's short passing is not brilliant, but he passes the ball very quickly in terms of how fast he kicks the ball, and his long distance passing is good. Guendouzi probably doesn't progress the ball quickly enough, but moves quickly with it. I think you mould them all, and we had what we had in Santi, but we had only one guy doing it then. I think all of that is part of the system. I don't give any credit to Bold for that, and that's nothing against Bold. I just think that was the types of players we had that were suited to it.
Yeah, totally agree, mate.
Do you think there was an improvement connecting the midfield to the attack? I can't tell if it was just a result of having an extra player in midfield and losing up front, or if Freddie actually changed the play a bit. Seems like there was more quick passing and movement in the first half.
Nah, I don't think so. I didn't notice it anyway.
It's a weird one because I kind of agree and disagree. I thought we did move the ball really well in the first half, but I don't think the link between the midfield and the attack was good. I mean, even in the first half, when you look at the chances, okay, there's a penalty, and there's the one from Lacazette that I mentioned, but that came from a deflected shot. There was the midfield linking up with the attack. So I think I agree and disagree with the question at the same time. Halls of Marble, surely Mustafi should never play for Arsenal again in a Premier League game. Neither should Louise. What is our actual defensive recruitment policy? Am I the only fan who doesn't mind Xhaka starting? His shot versus Palace is reprehensible, but why can't he be rehabilitated?
I like Granit.
Yeah, do you know what? Granit was so clearly the captain on the pitch today. I know Aubameyang had the armband on. Xhaka, and I think Freddie's brought him in to be the leader on the pitch. It was so clear. Like, as I said, I had people around me that are the type of people that hate Xhaka, and they couldn't find a bad word. Even when he gave the ball away, it was like he's so clearly the one that's trying to dictate play and tell everyone where to be, and the one that's bollocking people when they need to, encouraging people when they need to, the one that puts in a flying tackle when it needs to happen. There was one occasion, I think it was the Pookie chance, where Leno made a good save, where Guendouzi's just got a foul, whoever it was running past him. You're never going to get the ball. And we see him do it against Zaha a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And he's just not done it. He's just let him go. And everyone in the crowd was like, what are you doing? And Granit went up to him after and presumably said, what the fuck are you doing? Like, Granite.
He's
is
a
gonna
true
be
leader. Granite's a leader. There's no doubt about it.
I've long argued he's a better captain than he is a player, and I know you might disagree with that because you love him as a player, but I think his leadership, maybe not in ability, but his leadership in terms of being vocal and whatnot is second to, well, it's the best in our squad anyway.
Yeah.
Surely, I mean, his question about surely Mustafi and Louis should never play again. I mean, they're Gonu and this. I would hope, and look, we've done it before. Both of us have said players should never play for us again.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to hammer him, but I would hope this is just one of them reactions that it's come straight after the game and he's gone, they're shit. They should never play for us again.
Yeah. We
and
all
that
do
happens.
it.
We've done it.
Yep.
Yeah. But if he's being serious, he's going to be severely disappointed because they will both play for us again.
Who was that?
Halls of Marble.
Oh, okay. Yep.
So Josh, and then a load of numbers after his name. I think we really lacked width today. Missed Uber when he was our width. Could Bellerin provide more than Chambers? With fullbacks up, maybe Torreira midfield for more balance. My argument would be that Aubameyang played so wide that a fullback wouldn't be able to overlap because it'd be going off the pitch, which makes him very difficult. I think Uber on the right causes us more problems than it is ever going to solve.
He's too wide. He's too wide.
Yeah, because he doesn't want to cut inside. Halls of Marble. This may be controversial, but I don't think we should have Aubameyang and Lacazette. He'd sell Lacazette, to be honest, to retain Aubameyang and have a fluid attack similar to Liverpool or even Spurs. Is it overkill to have both Lacazette and Aubameyang? Obviously,
I said it earlier, didn't I?
Yeah, I mean, I think again we've come to different conclusions. I'd start them both. You would sell Lacazette,
No.
But there's no right or wrong answer.
No.
Again, Halls of Marble. He has mixed views on this. The performance wasn't great, but Freddie is only a caretaker. So does it make sense to be livid? Surely it is a case of the more things change, the more they stay the same. Yeah, I mean, as long again, we're giving him a pass because we're assuming he's a caretaker. This, I can't say it like make it more obvious. I really don't want him here for like 6 months, unless, as I said, I want everyone to win.
I just worry it's going to be a Manchester United thing with Ollie. That's my only worry. Let's face it, Ollie was never going to get the job. He was there as a caretaker, and because he actually, they go on a few wins, and he got the results.
They went on a really good run.
Good run, and they made top 4 last year.
No, they fell off as soon as they offered him a contract.
That's right. Yeah, then they offered him the contract based on the current form, and Jesus Christ. So that is my worry that they're going to do with Freddie.
But I mean, it's difficult. I know we like to laugh at United and whatnot, but it's difficult because if Lundberg now goes on a 10-game, if he goes unbeaten until January, the 1st it is here, second for you, and we've got Man United, I probably won't be sitting here and saying, we should get rid of him. So it is a difficult one. If he has a really, really good spell, I just can't. I don't think he will. I don't expect it from him, which is why I want change sooner rather than later. But it is difficult when you get to that position. As I said, it's exactly the same with Chelsea. They didn't want Di Matteo. He's won the Champions League, and you can't sack him.
Tottenham when they got rid of Poch, they had Mourinho lined up.
But I think that was the Arsenal plan. But Emery was so bad that there was no harm in getting rid of him now. Because they've said that they had a meeting on Sunday or Monday in America, depending on the time zone, where they agreed to sack him. They kept it between. I think they said Edu, Vinay, Josh, and Raul were in that meeting, and they didn't tell anyone else because they didn't want it leak into Emery. But they agreed, as I said, either Sunday or Monday, depending on where you are in the world, that they agreed to sack him. So I think that was Arsenal's plan because Tottenham, it was in the international break, but they sacked Pochettino on the Monday. So they told him on the Monday he was sacked, and then they announced it on the Wednesday night very late, 8 p.m, and then 6 a.m. on the Thursday morning they announced Mourinho. So they'd obviously already had it signed and they just kept it quiet. The reason we couldn't do that is because we had games to play. Because they was in the international break, they could sack him on the Monday.
Right. That's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah, no, that's because as well the players are on international duty.
Yeah,
it wouldn't have been abnormal for him to not be there, like on the Tuesday and Wednesday. And then, as I said, they announced it Wednesday night.
Do you think
anyway.
we should have sacked him in international break? He was probably probably dragged on it too long.
I was saying that way before the international break.
Yeah, I know.
In the ideal time, and you could have agreed to try and get whoever your target was at that time. Essex Gunner. Who do you want as our next manager? Rafa, or stick with Freddie to the end of the season and get Brenda? I assume he means
I've
Brenda.
seen Rafa come up a few times.
Contract's up in January. Well, no, it's not his contract. It's the end of the Chinese season in January.
Well, okay, because I was going to actually say, keep in mind, Rafa has never broke a contract.
Hasn't he?
No. Bit of trivia for you. People will be.
I know Wenger.
Hey?
I know Wenger never.
Yeah, who has Rafa? He's never broke a contract. So
I don't know if he's only on a 1-year contract in China. I just know that the season ends in January.
Okay.
But,
I wonder what he's on. I wonder how long he's on.
Yeah, I mean, I doubt he only obviously came in the summer, which is late for them because he was in the Premier League with Newcastle. So I doubt you don't bring someone with that stature, considering the league they're in, and only give him a 6-month contract. So I'd imagine he does have a longer contract, but I don't know.
I'd like him. I would take him quite easily.
Yeah, I mean, he wouldn't be. He's one of them I'd put in the bracket of maybe an Ancelotti, where I wouldn't have the. Again, I wouldn't cry if they're manager, but they wouldn't be on my list. They would be the type of guys I'd go to if the guys I wanted weren't available.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Like, I mean, say you wanted Poch and Allegri and they didn't take it for whatever reasons, then they would
gotta
be
have your next guys. Yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't be. I'm going to go and ring Rafa straight away.
I wonder whether they. Well, there you go. He signed a 2.5-year contract on 2nd of July 2019.
Yeah, I knew it'd only been there like 6. Well, it'd be 6 months, January.
Yeah.
I think that's it for the questions. When I took it over, I don't really know where Shrim was left, so I've been scrolling through them, and I think they've all been read.
I've got one in the WhatsApp group that I've just come across. I'll read it out. It's from Clay. How can we struggle to replicate?
Okay, that's the same one.
Oh, you've read that, have you? Okay.
Yeah. He says at the bottom as well. Sorry for a duplicate question. I posted it on Twitter too.
Okay, cool. Right. Okay. Just quickly before we go, so we've got Brighton coming up. You confident at home?
No.
Nope.
No, look, I wouldn't be confident with us against anyone at the moment. You can't be. From what we've seen since basically October now, beginning of October, sorry, you can't be confident with us at the moment. And also Brighton are decent.
Yeah, they're not a bad team.
I mean, I'm not expect them to come and beat us, but I can't say I would go and put money on Arsenal now. I wouldn't walk into a booking, to be honest.
Neither would I. But I'm going to touch on what do you think, because I want to get it before it's actually announced. What do you think the lineup would be? I know it's hard. Maybe I should say, what would you like it to be?
I would say, we don't know Freddie yet. At the moment, what we've seen today is an Emery lineup, and maybe it's just he didn't have time. I would expect something very different, but we don't know. It's like, do you know what I mean? When you've never seen someone do anything before, it's like walking into a 100-meter race and trying to predict how many seconds this guy's going to run when you've never heard of him.
Never seen him, yeah.
Yeah, it could be a sumo wrestler that it takes half hour to do it, or it could be Usain Bolt's faster brother. Like, you know what I mean? We really don't know. As I said, I could tell you what I would do, which is what I would have done today and gone 4-2-3-1 with Pepe, Ozil and Aubameyang on the left and Lacazette up top. And I think that brings a feel-good factor. It scares any team. And it may be a case of, well, they'll fight fire with fire, and you might concede a load of goals and try and outscore them, try and win 6-5 sort of thing. But I think it put the fear factor into teams, and it would get the fans on side. That's what especially if I only thought I had a few days or a few games.
Games, yeah.
As I said, I don't think any fan would moan if he'd done that, because you know what I mean.
He's trying. He's trying. Yeah.
Places, exactly.
He's trying. He's trying to do stuff. Just had a quick look. Bellerin Holding is injured. Day to day, it says. I didn't know that.
On where?
Oh, it was just on Foot Mob, so they do the injuries.
Yeah, Arsenal haven't mentioned it on any of their injury updates.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it just
like Ceballos is out, Hector was out, but a bit closer.
Yep.
And there was one other who wasn't holding.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it says here Ceballos mid-December, Bellerin day to day, hamstring, Rob Holding day to day.
Yeah,
knee injuries.
All
right, mate, that's about us, eh?
Yeah.
Righto, everyone, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. Follow us at _talk. You can get us on all good podcasts, apps, iTunes, we're also on YouTube and everything else. So that's it, mate. We'll catch up after Brighton.
Friday.
Yeah, too easy. Righto, mate. See ya.
All right.